Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I'm answering your guys' questions. First of all, thank you so much for all of your questions. If you do want to take part in these Q&As and ask me, I guess, more questions and whatnot, then definitely go join the Discord. I'll leave a link down below in the description of this video. The server name is Appetite for the Dead. I do these every single Wednesday. And yeah, so anyways, let's get into the first question here. So Q&A, do you think that the writer's strike will end up affecting Daryl Dixon and possibly Dead City Season 2 or other shows? Well, first of all, I think the writer's strike is over and the actor strike is over now. So I don't think like any effect it's going to have on it has already happened. And I think if anything, maybe it's affected Dead City's release window, because I feel like Dead City was supposed to come out like next summer kind of thing. But now I feel like it's been pushed off to the fall. And I do think it's going to be coming out next year. And I mentioned it in a previous video where I was like, well, you know, maybe Dead City comes out in 2025. And I will do a Dead City Season 2 video eventually. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I saw on Twitter or X or whatever, mentioned that there was some news that was going to be coming very soon regarding Dead City Season 2. So, and in terms of filming and all that. So I guess he found out some news on like when they're going to be filming. Obviously the strike and all that's all over now. And so, yeah, they found out when they're going to be filming. I'm assuming it's in the next like couple of months or something like that if you're finding out something now. Unless you're planning to film next spring or something, I don't know. But that tells me right there, if you're finding out news right now about Season 2, that there's likely going to be a release at some point in late 2024. So my guess is what's going to happen is Daryl Dixon Season 2 comes out next summer, and then Dead City comes out next fall. I think both shows are just basically going to, swap, I guess, time slots, and I think that just kind of, I think that makes a lot of sense for that. So yeah, so I think that's coming out next year. And I think any effect that, the strikes have had on the shows have already happened. And we kind of generally know when these shows are coming out. So Q&A, when will you be streaming The Walking Dead Destinies? Do you plan on replaying through most of the big decisions? If co-op is an option, do you plan on playing with other people? And do you plan on streaming other Walking Dead games like Saints and Sinners VR and Minecraft in December? Well, in terms of the first part there, I will be streaming The Walking Dead Destinies, and I'll have to come up with a schedule. I guess I have to think of what's going on really on Friday and Saturday. Like, I definitely will be streaming this game a lot, and I'll be streaming it for hours. Like, I'm probably going to beat the game if possible in like the first day or two. And I mean, I don't know how long the game's going to be. I will be playing it a lot, obviously. And in terms of, all the bigger decisions and stuff like that, I will be going back and replaying those bigger decisions. And so, obviously the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to choose Shane to live and for Rick to die. And then going forward, we'll see at that point, right? Like, is there going to be a moment where Daryl dies, right? And then replaying it, maybe this time I let Rick live, but maybe Lori does survive later on kind of thing, right? Or I don't know. Like, again, I don't know how the story is going to progress overall. Like, can you let Merle survive? I know there's a thing, I think, in the story here where if you actually, I don't know if maybe Merle just dies kind of thing, but I believe T-Dog actually becomes Merle basically because he has that prosthetic arm. So does T-Dog become a villain? Like, that would be really cool. So there's a lot of things like that I'm very interested in with this game. And so, yeah, I will be playing all of that. That's just 2 more days away. And I will be playing that most likely like in the evening or something like that, because yeah, that's when I'll be free. But in terms of the other games and stuff like that, I don't know if I'll be playing any of that, and if it is co-op, I will play, but I haven't heard anything of The Walking Dead Destinies being co-op. Q&A, will you do more YouTube live streams in the future? It's a lot more accessible on there for me than Twitch. I was actually thinking about doing a YouTube live stream sometime soon, because I used to do them all the time. I always did YouTube live streams, and I never really used Twitch that much, and I just I've gotten used to using Twitch at this point, so that's kind of the only reason why I'm using it a lot. I know more people would watch on YouTube. Like, I know that that's a thing, but I think that I'm just right now I'm just kind of doing whatever on Twitch, and it's a lot of fun. So as of now, I'm kind of doing that, but I am thinking about streaming on YouTube more though. Q&A, will you collab with other Walking Dead creators on videos? I definitely would be very open to it. It would just have to kind of make sense, I guess, in that way. Like, all I ever really do is sort of give my opinion on things, and I talk about the show, and I'll talk about, like different things that come out and give my thoughts on the new trailers, new scenes, new episodes and stuff like that. So, it would have to be something that would make sense, but like, yeah, I totally would be open to that. Q&A, what do you think of the idea of a Walking Dead animated series based on the comics similar to Invincible? Do you think Robert Kirkman has any plans to drop something like that? It depends on, I guess, who owns what with that in terms of like the rights to The Walking Dead, because I know that, I mean, obviously AMC has the rights to The Walking Dead and all that. In terms of animated stuff, I mean, I guess they would probably, like, I feel like it's probably any interpretation of that story they would own, right? So even if it's animated or whatever, they would own the rights to, I guess, a TV show type thing or movies or any kind of The Walking Dead. So I feel like that's probably why they haven't really done a lot, and that's why I guess games are okay, because they might not own anything to do with the games, right? So that's why they're able to do games and all that. But I will point out Walking Dead Destinies is not by Skybound. It's actually from AMC. So totally different. This is AMC actually doing this. So I guess they have the rights to this as well. Though I will say, actually, you know what? Never mind. I was going to say, because Telltale's, total different story, but there's actual Walking Dead characters on there. I mean, again, it's one of those things where I don't understand the full details there entirely, but I feel like they're not really able to right now unless they worked out a deal with AMC. And I think if they worked out a deal with AMC to be able to come up with like an animated series, then yeah, that'd be super awesome. I mean, that's the thing too. That's Skybound wanting to do that. Like if AMC wanted to do an animated series, they could. They just couldn't really, I mean, they could base it off the comic too as well, I guess. I'm not entirely sure how all that would work. Like, I guess they could probably just do it if they wanted to, right? Maybe you couldn't really include some comic stuff or whatever, but then again, like The Walking Dead literally is based off of that. So yeah, I don't know. I guess it depends on their deal and it depends on all that, but I would really love an animated series done like Invincible. I think that'd be so incredible. I don't know why they haven't done it yet, but I mean, obviously the shows are amazing, and yeah, like I think one day it'll happen. Q&A, if you could cut off a season from Fear the Walking Dead and start writing the story yourself, where/what season would you start at? Well, it's it's basically at the end of season 3. I would start right there, because when season 4 started, I had an issue immediately with where the story was going. I was like, wait, what? Because they did a time jump of some whatever, and there was our characters moved from Texas to, I guess, that baseball stadium, and I had issues with that because it didn't really make a lot of sense. Characters were sort of split up. I didn't like the timeline of everything, and there was so much at the end of season 3 in that finale that was like so exciting to look forward to. There was, I mean, the character of Walker, honestly, really incredible character. The whole damn storyline, just where it ended, and Madison sort of waking up and she actually survived the whole thing kind of thing. Like, I wanted to see what would happen next, and instead it was like a complete refresher of a story. So I wouldn't do the whole refresher of the story. I would continue on from that point on and just continue the story from there, keeping everyone alive. I would obviously keep Nick alive. If the actor wanted to leave, then I would write the character off at some point later on in season 4, right? Like, I wouldn't do it right in the beginning, and I would give him a more honorable death. Like, I wouldn't have Charlie kill him. I would do it in a much better way, and it would be later on in season 4. And I would definitely have Morgan's introduction into the whole show here make a lot more sense, And the one thing that I wouldn't do for sure, and I know people might not be fans of it, is I wouldn't have Morgan and Rick talking about stuff in the beginning of season 4, because to me it's just so weird how it's like all Walking Dead and then it turns into Fear the Walking Dead. I know people might like that. I just think it's so out of place and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like, that is something there that if you want to have that at any point in the future, maybe you can show that as a flashback later on in season 4 as something. But to start off the story like that, I mean, you're already starting off the story in a totally different way and you're completely changing everything. Like, that's the thing, when you're really looking at where the story went in general, I feel like they were like, you know what, we want to do a crossover with Morgan, and the story here doesn't really make too much sense, and we kind of want to do a refresher of the show and have Morgan join the show. And so, you look at season 4, it completely changed everything. Like, the first couple of episodes were really just so different. It wasn't anything of what the story was in seasons 1 to 3. So I think that I would focus on that first. Q&A, can you list off the characters that we'll be saying goodbye to from Fear, and the characters that have a good chance of coming back in the future or in a future scene from like The Ones Who Live or another spinoff? In terms of the characters that I could see dying, and that's the crazy thing, is like, these are the final episodes, so any of them can actually die now at this point. I think that Daniel is probably going to die. I think that's a character I could see actually dying, and it's because of who the character is and what he stands for. He's a very honorable person, and there's just something about him. Like, he's a warrior, and I feel like he's gonna go out, saving people kind of thing. Like, I just, that's the way I kind of see it. In terms of Strand, I don't know what's next for him. it's kind of hard to say. Do I see him dying? I don't see him dying. Like, I actually think he is going to live. Madison, I think, is going to live. Troy, I think, is going to live. Really, I can only see Daniel being sort of the only death, I think, of this show. And other than that, I think some other side characters could die. You know, in terms of June, she's probably going to live. Dwight and Sherry, they're both going to live. I really think the only character that's probably going to die is Daniel, and then there might be some other side characters kind of thing. Like, I know there's a few people with Troy that are more recognizable. They're probably just going to die off here in these episodes. But yeah, you know, and I do think Alicia will return, and then I think we'll get that. And yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about there. But in terms of any sort of character deaths that I see happening, the only one I could see is Daniel, because I think Daniel's death could unite everyone in a... I mean, then again, like, it is kind of hard to say. Like, I'm trying to picture how the last couple of episodes could go. Like, if you kill off Strand and say Strand is dying there, he's laying on a table sort of thing, and he's like giving a speech kind of thing, or he's talking to like Madison, and say Alicia's there and Daniel's in the room, right? Or Luciana. Like, I can see how all those characters would unite because of Strand's death. Like, they all kind of hate each other right now. So maybe after Strand's death, they're like, you know what? We're gonna do this now, kind of thing. The only thing with that is I don't know if Strand's the perfect character for that, because Daniel doesn't really like Strand, right? So that's kind of an issue. If you replace Strand with Daniel, and then Daniel's the one to die there, I mean, I could see everyone being very upset about just the whole situation. Like Madison, Strand, and if Alicia's there, Luciana, they would all be so upset that Daniel died, because, you know, Daniel overall, he hasn't really caused problems for anybody. Like, he hasn't been a villain or anything like that, you know? So I think that his death, and depending on how it happens, I think would be a very sad moment for everybody, you know? And I think he is basically, I feel like, the moral compass of all the characters on the show. Like, I'm trying to think, if you replace Madison's death there, like, people are going to be upset about it, but I also feel like that's just going to really upset fans if Madison dies, because she just came back and all of a sudden she's gone. So I don't want to see that. I'm trying to think of any other characters that would work, but, you know, I don't think so. Like, I think Strand, Madison, Alicia's death would make no sense at all. Troy, like, none of them. I don't think any of them would work. Really, the only character that makes a lot of sense would be Daniel, because he's one of those just really respectable people on the show. He's always been, you know, a warrior for the show. He's always looked after people and stuff. He's been through some really hard times, and I think that it just kind of makes some sense there. So that's, as of now, that's my only death prediction for these last 2 episodes. And I'm just kind of grouping those 2 episodes together. I'm not saying he's going to die in like 11 or whatever. It's going to be basically in the 2-part finale, he'll die. Q&A, do you think Negan will use the Whisperer tactic again and make a new mask in season 2? You know, I think that is something that is probably just going to be ignored now at this point. Like, that's the only issue I had with the Whisperer arc. Like, a lot of that stuff was cool. I think the interpretation of the story, though, from the comic just didn't make a lot of sense. Like, the comic actually made so much sense, because you had everyone, like, not just wearing masks, like, you had Walker suits basically, and you're sort of covered in like blood and everything. On the show, it's just a mask, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, you know, like, just because in the past they've had to cover themselves with like Walker guts and everything, right? Just because of the smell. For this, it's like a Walker mask. Like, it's so silly. It really is so silly. I don't like how they told the story. And in terms of realism and all that, I would really just want them to go away from that. I'm not a big fan of it. I love the Whisperer arc, but I think the use of that and just, you know, the whole thing there, it doesn't really make too much sense. It's a little too ridiculous. So I hope that they don't actually do that. Q&A, do you think it's possible that at the end of Daryl Dixon, Daryl, Carol, Isabel, and Laurent will go back to the US? Yeah, I think that's definitely very possible. Like, at this point here, I think it makes a lot of sense that they can all go back to the US. I think that'd be really cool. Anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. Definitely thank you so much for posting all of your questions. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.